I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to somebody today. Jonathan and I have been working together for, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 years. And this guy is absolutely one of the leaders in the entire industry in building science. Now, we're not talking about foundations, and we're not talking about wall structures, and I'm not talking about hurricane resistance or any of that kind of stuff. We're talking about something way more important to you because it's buried deep in your house, and it has the potential of causing an incredible liability issue for every single home builder in the United States. Jonathan can teach you about water science. And what I have learned is that our kind of flippant choice of whether we use copper or PEX or FlowGuard Gold or whatever, it's kind of we use whatever we use and it kind of doesn't matter, is a terrible decision that opens us up to some pretty incredible liability issues later on. And it's all related to the water purification systems that we use in the United States and how they are changing, and that change causes leaks deep inside of our structures, which, as you know, can be really expensive. Jonathan, can you in a few minutes explain what the core of this issue really is?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about our water chemistry, it all comes down to drinking water safety. Water comes out of the ground from reservoirs, streams, lakes, rivers, and it has contaminants in it. The EPA requires that water be treated to keep it safe for human consumption. For over 100 years, we've used chlorine-based disinfectants. Yep. Standard chlorine used to be the primary method, but what the EPA found about 20-25 years ago is that regular chlorine has the ability to, when it interacts with certain bacteria, create disinfection byproducts that are actually more dangerous and harmful than the bacteria that it was meant to kill.
Whoops.
So that was a big mistake. So the industry started moving away from standard chlorine to a new technology called chloramine. Chloramine was a little bit slower acting against bacteria, but was very effective and didn't create those.
And is that different than chloramine, which is just a social media icon for chlorine?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Chloramine, not
chloramine.
meme. Okay.
So chloramine had one major flaw, which is that it chemically reacts with copper pipe and causes aggressive pinholing.
Yep, and we've seen that, and I've seen that. I think we've all heard of situations where copper is failing in a house. We don't know why. The bottom line, it's chemistry.
Absolutely. There was an incident in the early 2000s in California. A neighborhood that had been built in the 1980s or early 90s had been in service for 20 years without issue. The water utility switched to chloramine disinfection, and within just a couple of years, the entire community had copper pinhole failures across hundreds of homes.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, we stopped using copper a long time ago. We switched to PEX, Jonathan, so we're good, right?
Not exactly.
Oh.
Unfortunately. So chloramine and chlorine both contribute to disinfection through something called oxidative reduction potential. This ORP of the water needs to be at a certain level in order to kill the bacteria. However, PEX has a maximum limit of 825 millivolts for its performance.
The potential. Otherwise, it starts to break down?
Exactly. Above 825 millivolts, PEX will actually start to corrode and degrade, forming micro cracks.
Because isn't it the carbon chain in a way that starts to break apart?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what happens is the chlorine attacks the carbon chain, breaks that carbon chain, and forms a micro crack.
Yep.
That micro crack opens up with pressure, allows more chlorine to get deeper into the PEX, breaks the carbon chain even more. Eventually, it leads to a pinhole leak.
And I know while you were giving this talk to a group of builders that I was moderating, one of the builders in that room goes, "Oh my God, that's what happened." And he had just had a PEX system fail with little teeny pinhole leaks. And he was scratching his head going, what did we do? Did we nick it during construction? Did we hit it with a nail? Why do we have these little pinhole leaks? And he was chopping the pipe and then using shark bite fittings to try to fix all of these little sections in this house. And it was driving him crazy because it kept failing.
Right. And that's one of the things that we see, because heat accelerates the issue. So when you have hot water systems, it will make the chlorine reaction occur faster.
And the hotter the hot water, the worse the reaction.
The faster it happens. So on a hot water line, they'll initially make the repair close to the water heater, and then a few months to years later, they'll make the repair 10 feet down the line, and then another couple years, and there'll be another 10 feet down the line where they're having this issue just progressively moving down the line due to the influence of the heat in the water. But there's an even more scary proposition right now.
Like we need more scary proposition right now.
As water conditions have evolved, about 10 years ago, the EPA identified a few new bacterial contaminants in the water that chlorine and chloramine cannot kill. But there's a new technology called chlorine dioxide that is effective at disinfecting against these Cryptosporidium and Mycobacterium avium.
And that seems to be spreading, that form of treatment seems to be spreading throughout the United States.
Absolutely. You can actually see here, since 2010, the use of chlorine dioxide is up 17 times, 1,700%. And just since 2000, it has increased 3x over the last 5 years.
So another problem then we have as builders is future proofing, because we might be fine right now going, no, my utility doesn't use that, but there's nothing stopping them next year from implementing it, and now my houses start to fail and the homeowners are going to come back at me.
Absolutely. And there is only one method that we recommend for future proofing, and that is to understand the water chemistry and use a product that is immune to those issues. So FlowGuard Gold CPVC is a chlorinated compound. We have chlorine built into our carbon backbone.
So it's not susceptible to chlorine attack because it's already there.
Exactly. Whether it's chlorine, chloramine, chlorine dioxide, any method of chlorine-based disinfection will be harmless against our pipe while still disinfecting the water.
So what I've learned as a builder is a couple of things. First of all, before we ever spec any kind of plumbing supply system, we really should understand our utility. We should measure the water at our point of location, not where the utility is, but at our point of build. We should also understand what method they're using and take into consideration that method could change. And then we need to future-proof ourselves considering FlowGuard Gold. If you want to know more about how you can avoid the liability of building a house that's going to fail in the future, behind the walls where it's expensive and hard to repair, talk to my friend Jonathan at FlowGuard Gold.